Welcome to the Well-Oiled Canine Podcast, where your dog's health is our top priority. I'm Dana Brigman, a canine nutritionist and certified holistic pet health coach, specializing in aromatherapy, homeopathy, and herbs. Join me on a mission to help your dog eat better, feel better, and live longer. Now let's dive into a world of natural pet care and discover the secrets to a happier, healthier pup. Visit me at welloiledcanine.com. Hello, everybody. It's Dana Brigman and Angela Keith, and we are back for, I think this might be podcast number 4 of our reboot. I don't remember. But today we're going to be talking a little bit about separation anxiety. And I'm going to give Angela just a minute to introduce herself and her business, and then we will jump into this complex topic of not being able to leave dogs at home alone, unattended, without drama.
Drama. Yeah.
Drama.
Hi, friends. It's Angela back again. I'm in Wilmington. I'm 456 Canine Coach. And I'm just trying to help people in my area, offering all of the same wonderful services that Dana does for all of you.
Yep.
And dealing with some separation anxiety myself, as I have a senior dog who's developed some old age issues, and she's become a little clingy and upset too. So a very relevant subject.
Okay, awesome. So again, I'm Dana Brigman. I'm in the North Myrtle Beach area. Angela and I both will do Zoom calls with folks on behavior topics, nutrition and wellness topics, whatever you need. And when necessary, the two of us will collaborate and partner with you to help you get all your issues resolved. So today we're talking about separation anxiety. It is probably my most frequent inquiry these days. Interestingly enough, the demographic in my area, I find people don't want to deal with aggression, so there's a lot of rehoming that tries to take place. But separation anxiety seems to be pretty prevalent, and I see it often with a lot of relocation issues now, people moving into the area, maybe even into a condo or a townhouse or a smaller property, and the dynamics have changed and dogs are starting to show this behavior. So, and then rescue dogs, we see it a lot in dogs that have new homes.
Yeah. I see a lot too, people that work from home, people that are home a lot and then want to travel or start doing more things out of the house, and the dogs are just not acclimated to that type of environment. We're not giving them the tools to understand it's okay.
Right. And so what do you think some of those tools are, some of the reasons that this starts to happen?
Probably most significantly is not crate training.
Okay.
Being able to allow our dogs a safe space, whether we're there or we're gone, but practicing while we're there, being okay in a crate and things happening is one way to sort of prevent the angst of, you're putting me in a crate, I know you're leaving, this makes me feel bad.
Right.
So that's and I know that's where you start too, is with the crate and doing some things at home, creating good, happy, positive routines about leaving.
Yeah, I think we set the tone for anxiety to be present. And once we see it happen, like once or twice, we contribute to it even more.
Yep.
Right? Meaning we're like, oh my God, it's going to happen again. What am I going to come home to? And we start to feel bad for the dog. We start to put a negative energy into the departure, and it just sort of builds on from there. So yes, I agree. We need crate training as part of the resolution to this. And that's really hard for a lot of people to accept if their dog hasn't been in the crate for quite a while. right?
Mm.
And they're reluctant to go back to that training protocol and start to give that dog its own bedroom and safe space, if you will. And I even tell people you need to start crate training and using the crate while you're home, while
Yeah.
you have no intention of leaving the house,
Yep.
so that it's not this predictable experience for the dog.
Definitely. And I also I love having people stop and record themselves to see what their routine is when they leave.
Right,
Because a lot of times dogs are cueing off of little things the owners are doing that they do every time they leave, and that's what creates this anxiety in them before you're ever out the door. And so once people break it down into baby steps, like, okay, my keys, my pocketbook, everything's on the counter all the time. When I pick it up, my dog gets upset every time. That's because your dog's cueing off of you grabbing those things.
right.
I make them put their stuff in other places around the house.
Exactly. And so I'll update the separation anxiety protocol that I started putting together as we go through some of these tips. But I do the same thing. I'm like, just pick your keys up and move them from the kitchen counter to the hallway, right? Or
Yep.
move them down the hall to the bedroom, sit them in the bathroom. If you're like me, you may forget where you put them these days. But those things should not be the trigger for your dog to go, uh-oh, she's leaving. And then
Yep.
things build from there, So I even go so far as to say, go open the garage door with no intention of leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Go start your car, turn it off, and walk back in the house 2 seconds later. It's all part of a progression, but we have to desensitize the dog to our actions and the sounds they hear that are all part of that departure process.
Yep, definitely. I mean, a good example of positively, helping a dog understand it's okay you're leaving. My dogs, they know what shoes, they know what pair of shoes I put on if I'm leaving or if I'm staying home. They get excited if I put on my going away shoes because they know I'm going to stop at the door, tell them to make good decisions, and toss them a treat as I leave. So they get excited about it.
Right. Exactly. And so
It's those little things that matter to the dogs.
you can turn this into a positive thing. I know our friend Maria, she really took to heart when I said, tell the dog what to expect, right? Speak to them.
Yeah.
She says things like, Mama always comes back. I'll be back in an hour. I'll be back in 2 moon sleeps or
Yeah.
whatever it is. And honestly, I've watched her dogs understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They really do start to get it and go, okay, I can deal with this.
Yep.
One of her dogs, both of them, she oils up tremendously. We can talk about essential oils, but she'll put things like peace and calming or valerian root or things of that nature on the dog for just a little extra calming, take the edge off. One of them wears a thunder shirt when she leaves. And so I think those things are okay to implement as well.
Yeah. And if the dog expects it, that's one thing they're looking forward to. If that thunder shirt makes them feel better,
Right.
then they know when this comes on, this feels good. I like this. This isn't such a bad situation.
Right. Yeah. Let's go back to the crate for a second. When I have dogs with severe separation anxiety, I tend not to recommend the standard mesh wire style crate. I either want them to consider like an airline carrier, which is a little bit more difficult to get a grip on, right? Because they're slick sided. They do have an opportunity to grip the door. But there's nothing to bite onto, and there's not a lot of the sides are smooth, so they can't get their feet in those areas. It's only the door really that they can do anything about. I will also say never ever zip tie a dog in a crate.
Oh gosh, no, horrible.
when I do have the wire crates, I will zip tie the corners, the back corners, but I never zip tie that front door.
Yeah,
I may
that's
put a carabiner on it that I can unlatch quickly and do one at the top and the bottom, but I am never zip tying a dog in a crate. It's just too much risk for an emergency.
yeah. Well, and dogs are Houdinis. If a dog truly wants to get out of a crate, those zip ties will not stop them from trying, and they're gonna hurt themselves.
Right, exactly. Um, I also, and this is not my trick of the trade, I learned it from a guy named Mark Goldberg. I think Mark Goldberg is his name, many moons ago, but he will put cedar wood shavings in the bottom of the crate,
Yeah.
the airline carrier style crate. I keep looking at the crate that's in my living room. And there's something about the smell of cedar wood. So when I expose dogs to essential oils and let them choose, cedar wood is one of the most common ones they choose when anxiety is present. And putting those cedar shavings into the bottom of the crate. And I have a picture of a dog that I did this with. This particular dog used to jump out of 2-story windows. And we put her in the crate with the cedar wood shavings. And I actually had to keep rooting Howie out of there. He liked the comfort of it so much. But there's something about the cedar wood shavings and making sort of this comfort and nest and
Yeah.
benefit to that. Now, it can be a little bit messy, but it's not as messy as coming home to your blinds eaten or the dog has injured itself.
Yeah. I've heard like hay, straw hay too.
Yeah, definitely not pine needles, right? You don't
No, you don't want that stuff in your house anyway.
the hay, and I have sprinkled cedar wood oil on it,
Yeah,
right? And given that effect as well. So be open to trying those kinds of things.
definitely.
We also have like the tiger crates that are really slick sided, heavy metal, that there is nothing the dog can bite onto or grip onto with their feet. And the mistake that I see a lot of people make, no matter what kind of crate they're trying to use, is they just shove the dog in it and hope for the best. That doesn't work.
Nope.
That's a claustrophobia kind of thing. You are really going to make the fear worse because now they're in a panic. They have loss of control, all of that kind of stuff. So it is very much a process of teaching the dog to accept that crate and to be relaxed and comfortable in it, even while you're home.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I tell people you got to start working on this and put the dog in the crate more often than you think is necessary, even while you're home, while you have no intention of leaving, because we don't want putting them in their crate to be that association of, oh, they're about to leave.
Yep, exactly. I usually tell people too, like we all know addressing separation anxiety, there's no one thing that works for every dog. Every
Right.
dog and every situation is different. But when I'm talking to somebody, I say, look, this is going to be at least a 3 to 4 week process to get us started. But then you're going to have, like, this is a month, this is months long. Like, this isn't something we can fix in 2 weeks.
Right.
Because you and I talked about it. There's homework involved. That desensitization to the crate, the feeding them in the crate, giving them fun treats in the crate, putting them in the crate while you're home, putting them in the crate while you walk to the mailbox, for 2 minutes. Like it's
Right.
this big, long process.
Yeah.
And that's where probably you would agree we lose a lot of people.
Yes. And so I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday and I said, look, I'm happy to come see you and talk about separation anxiety, but before I show up, I want you to do two things. One is begin crate training, and the other is teach your dog place. If you can't go pee without your dog velcroed to your hiney, and they also have separation anxiety, you have no hope of resolving this until you can walk down the hall and they stay put relaxed.
Yeah. The TikTok videos of the dogs watching you in the bathroom is not cute. It's
No,
distressing.
It is. It really is. And when people shift their brain to think about this is truly not normal, I should be able to leave my dog in a calm state of mind. That is the key. We have to adjust their state of mind. And I think people don't really understand the importance of teaching a command like place. It is not a trick. It is a state of mind exercise
Yep.
for duration,
Yep.
for very long durations. And when you can get that state of mind for your dog and they sit across the room from you versus Velcro to your butt while you go to the bathroom, get a glass of ice, make dinner, or watch TV, right? Until
Yep.
you can break that separation, you're going to have a hard time with the separation anxiety. And people say to me, well, I'm home. I want my dog on the couch with me. I'm like, okay, well, how's that working for you when you leave?
Yeah.
Right?
What are you doing at home to prevent your dog from being comfortable when you leave?
Right.
All of the things most of the time.
All the things. Yeah. So I gave this girl an assignment yesterday. I said, you've got 2 weeks before I'm going to show up. And I want, in the meanwhile, we can do some video conferences or support by phone or whatever you need. But I want you to start crate training and I want you to start teaching place. And then we merge those two together. Have your dog do place in the crate with the door open.
Yep.
While you're making dinner or watching TV or kids' homework or whatever it may be, right?
Place command is another one of those life skills that you and I talk about a lot.
I think it's so important, right? And I get it. We love little Fluffy and we want little Fluffy in our lap. And sometimes we want big Great Dane in our lap, right? I mean, I had Danes and I loved it. Sometimes there wasn't enough room on the couch for all of
Yeah.
them.
I'll
But
never forget the story you tell about putting one of your Danes in place for mealtime and you forgot to give him
the pet
the
sitter did
food.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
She left him there for like a half hour and she came back to just puddles of drool and him going, are you me to eat or not? Yeah. So that's an important one to do. And then I also go from there. Once we get place, then I want downstay in a random spot for duration. And by duration, I mean place up to 2 hours, downstay 30 to 45 minutes. And when I say in a random spot, it might be in the guest bedroom or the guest bathroom or behind the dining room table or somewhere that's not normal to them.
Yeah.
And why do I do that? Because it's not normal. I make them think about all she's asking me to do is a downstay, but it's not normal. It's not, I don't normally do it in this place. So how is this different? And they have to learn to adjust that state of mind again.
Yep. And I will add this because I unfortunately see too many trainers do this. Place command, downstay should not be a punishment for bad behavior. It
No.
always needs to be associated with calm, peaceful, good things.
Correct. Absolutely. Now I've made dogs do puppy push-ups as part of you flip me off, you're gonna go to work.
Yes, definitely.
You're gonna go to work and do a few little drill sergeant.
Yeah, but the goal of place command is not you're out of control, you're hyper, you have energy, and I can't deal with you, so I'm going to make you place for 2 hours.
Right.
It should never be used in that regard.
Right. And the state of mind is the big deal. Your dog should get to complete relaxation. They should not be sleeping with one eye open, going, when is she going to release me?
Yep.
They should just sort of forget that they're there altogether. Right. Okay. What about what else do you I'm trying to figure out how to bring it up and not make it sound negative, but one of the things that I will sometimes do if a dog's wigging out in the crate, I will often put a metal bowl with an e-collar in it so the dog's not wearing the e-collar the e-collar is in the bowl. So if the dog is trying to paw at the door or the sides or put his teeth on it, I'm watching from a webcam.
Mm-hmm.
This is part of my requirement. This is my protocol, right?
Yeah.
And you're either all in or you're not, because I can't do it if you're not going to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
But we will watch I'll just walk outside and sit on the doorstep, right? Put the dog in the crate as we start this progression of leaving. I'm watching on the camera. Dog, as long as they're quiet, I'll leave them alone. But you bite my crate, that crate's going to make a noise.
Mm-hmm.
The bowl and the e-collar makes this vibration that the dog's like, the crate did that, right? Because it's going to vibrate the crate itself a little bit.
Yeah.
They usually stop and they're like, the heck was that? Right. And so they do it again and they start to associate that they're causing this vibration to happen. So that can often reset their mind a little bit. Have you ever tried it like that?
That's clever. I need to try that. Usually my go-to, I use the webcam, and from the other room or whatever, it's usually me on the camera doing an or a no or something to disrupt it as soon as they start.
See,
But
I don't want
I
to be
like the e-collar and the bowl thing.
I don't want to be associated with my voice being that interruption because they know it's me.
Yeah.
I want them to assume I've left and that the crate now is responding back.
Yeah. No, I like that idea a lot.
Wait a second. I have progressed to putting the e-collar on some dogs and letting the vibrate be on the dog.
Yeah.
Right. For the dog that jumped out of the 2-story window, we're talking life and death here, right?
Yeah.
She could have killed herself jumping out the window. B, she could have hurt herself, killed herself running into the road looking for her mother.
Yeah.
Right. So she was pretty extreme. And I did put the e-collar on her and she would get a stim. The lowest level I knew she felt, right? This was not to be punitive.
Right.
We have to think about their level of intensity and sort of being right above that, right? Just enough to get her attention and go, every time I do this, I feel this stim. And we were able to resolve her. Honest, I have never had a dog that I could not leave my house for at least 30 minutes within 4 days. The problem with that is I could get the dog to do all these things for me in a board and train program. And remember, we're not just training that. We're fixing the obedience. We're fixing the leadership. We're fixing the rules of the house and all of that kind of stuff. And so the dog starts to see me in a very different leadership role. And then when I would take the dog back to the owner, it's as if training ended and the state of mind was right back to where it was before they dropped the dog off because the owner didn't progress with them.
Right.
Right. And the dog's like, oh, these rules don't apply at mom's house like they did at Dana's house.
Yeah.
Now I no longer do separation anxiety in a board and train. I don't do board and train at all anymore, but I had stopped doing it in the board and train setting because of that transition issue. I wanted the owner to progress through the whole thing with them. So what does that look like for me? It usually looks like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at home with the dog, doing all of these exercises, including some of the obedience work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then before they ever try to truly go back to work or that sort of thing. When I was first starting out as a trainer many years ago, I went to a workshop and there was this girl, I don't remember her name, but she would make people take vacation for like 2 weeks, like legit take time off work And she had this whole training program where she would go see them almost every day to work on all of these things. And I'm like, and it was like $4,000 or $5,000. I sat there befuddled going, wow, what great money. But then the more I got into it, I'm like, the people can do this.
Yeah.
I don't need you to do vacation for 2 weeks or whatever it is. And I certainly don't need to be with you every day for this. Can we do phone conference or whatever? Sure. But I was so, and I don't know if she's still doing that or not, but I remember it was like, that's pretty extreme and pretty expensive.
Yeah. And I myself would be hesitant to offer a program like that because even in 2 weeks, we're not going to have 100% results.
Right.
Like, I don't know, that much money for me to spend that much money on a training program, I kind of want some guarantee.
Yeah.
And you
Right.
can't guarantee separation anxiety.
Well, and so that's a good point, even about the part of, we spend a few days and get these basics going, and then you got to go back to work. Well, does that mean you get a pet sitter to come let them out midday? Maybe, right? Do you come home for lunch and let the dog out and sort of regroup and reset? Because you can't just necessarily expect that magic's going to happen in a couple of days and there will be no future issues.
Yeah.
But yeah, the crate training is a big piece of that. What other tips do you have?
Uh,
I'm working on that.
well, this isn't a tip. Something you said earlier made me think about it. I think it was the e-collar. Um, One thing that I do caution people about, if you're going to use something like an e-collar or even the e-collar in the bowl on the crate, is the timing has to be perfect. Because what we're dealing with when we're looking at separation anxiety is an emotion. And you
Yeah.
have to really be careful, like, because I don't want people doing this on their own and like really making their dog worse. So you have to learn from a professional what's the timing of stopping this behavior so that you're not inadvertently punishing an emotion and really confusing the dog in the process.
And even when you use a webcam, there is a couple of seconds of delay
Yep, absolutely.
to what just took place.
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be like simultaneous, but it does have to be timed with, and we do have a couple of seconds in there to be able to go, don't do that. Forgot what I was going to say. Oh, so I also have people step back and say, is it really only separation anxiety? Or are there other places of anxiety? We kind of touched on it when we said if your dog won't let you go to the bathroom,
Yeah.
tends to suggest this is a bigger issue than just being left alone. I tend to separate it into two lines of thinking. One is isolation distress,
That's
meaning
exactly what I was getting ready to say.
you can't leave the dog in a different room than you're home. Somebody's home, right? And they're still wigged out, or you leave and your roommate or your husband or you whoever's there and the dog is still stressed out because you left.
Yeah.
Those are all different types of anxiety that we have to look at, and we have to step back and go, what is this we are dealing with? Because we may only see the destruction and the drama when nobody's home, right? Or the neighbors complaining that the dog's loud and vocal and blah, 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 especially if you're in an apartment complex.
Yeah.
But you do have to step back and go, is this truly about being home alone, or its favorite human left, its favorite human is out of sight but still in the house, or there are just other places we see anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, then I want to step back and look at their nutrition, one of the people that and she studies human anxiety. She has a PhD in it, but she has come and talked to us in the Young Living space multiple times about anxiety in animals. Her name is Marcella von Harding. You met her in
Yes.
Vegas.
Yep.
And she always says that any body, and I don't mean just any human, any being who has anxiety is depleted of digestive enzymes. And so that's one of the things that I start with as well. If this is truly an anxiety type issue and not just a crate problem.
Yeah.
We take a look at nutrition. We add in calming agents, which may be essential oils or rescue remedy or CBD or any of those kinds of things that are going to help take the edge off just a little bit while we learn and make the adjustments. Those are not intended to be forever, but you know, just something that helps pull it all together.
Yep, definitely. I remember that now.
Yeah, I am not a fan of drugging the dog when we leave.
No.
Right.
To- i-
Go ahead.
If I get a dog to board and train or boarding or whatever, and they say, "Oh, we've been giving them I typically say, leave it at home. I'm not using it."
Yeah. When I did board and train, I said, you got to wean the dog off of whatever drugs they're on because I want to see the real animal.
Yeah.
And that's still true today, right? If your dog's all jacked up and, you know, stupefied because they're on some calming drug that makes them loopy, I'm not able to actually train the authentic dog. I'm training a modified version.
Yeah. Well, and not to mention the fact that typically the drugs that are given to these dogs are something like trazodone or gabapentin, something that's not actually addressing the anxiety at all. It's just making the dog feel weird and physically lethargic.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, and you're not helping them. They're in their mind, they're still very confused. They just don't have the energy to react like they had before.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about new separation anxiety, right? Meaning we've never had a problem before. And now all of a sudden the dog's starting to wig out. What do you think some of the roots of this behavior may be?
Well, my go-to is make sure there's not something medically happening. As with any sudden change in behavior, my first go-to is rule out any medical cause. Because
Right.
our dogs don't have a way to communicate and say, I don't like being left alone. My stomach hurts today, you know? So looking at medical issues, sitting down and going, what's changed? You know, did my work schedule change? Is there construction in the neighborhood? Like what's different at the onset of this? Because the solution may be adjusting something else and not changing anything for the actual dog.
Right. Yeah. I think we mentioned it at the top of the discussion is that sometimes transitions can create these issues, meaning you're in a new environment. You moved from acreage to a townhouse, right?
Yes.
And so maybe exercise isn't what it used to be, and all of those can play a role. A lot of people will try to really tire out the dog before they leave. And I'm okay with a good exercise routine, but that is not usually enough. It has to be sort of this leadership thing. And, you know, I know a lot of people don't subscribe to pack mentality, but humor me for a minute. And let's think about if these were quote unquote dogs in the wild, so to speak, especially puppies and that sort of thing. When the alpha would leave the puppy or the younger dog and say, you stay here, they're not challenging that. They're not saying, no, but I'm coming with you. And they're not sitting back howling at the moon going, You
Right.
left me, because now they've exposed their location, they're putting themselves in danger. And so this, in many respects, to me, is a leadership issue,
Mm, definitely.
right? If I'm not effective at leading my dog and them trusting me to hold them accountable to all things. And that doesn't mean punishment. That
Right.
just means rules and boundaries, right? And even those words sometimes upset people, but we have to have them.
Yeah. Even just the mental capacity of the dog to know with good leadership, okay, you're not going to put me in a situation that would harm me. I
Right,
trust you, you trust me.
right. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm okay with the exercise, but it cannot be a standalone element of resolution. It's just
Yeah.
not be enough in
Well,
most.
because at the end of the day, eventually that exercise, no matter what it's going to be, they're either going to keep increasing their need for more exercise and we're still not addressing the problem. And the anxiety is just going to continue to get worse as we're putting a Band-Aid on it by taking them for a
I
mile
call
walk when
it,
they're tired.
I call it, we've built a better athlete.
Yep.
Right. And that's
Yep.
true for aggressive dogs too. Because I mean, how many times you hear people say a tired dog is a happy dog? Well, for about 5 minutes,
Exactly.
right? Because at some point that tiredness is going to wear off and their state of mind didn't change.
Yep.
Right. And if you take dogs on sort of these casual, easygoing walks, that's not going to work. I mean, yes, they need the sniffari, as some people like to call it these days. Yes, many of them need more exertion than some of us can give them, right? I can't run fast enough to entertain Poppy, but I can get out the flirt pole and wear her butt out, right? Some people put on rollerblades or bike with their dog or run with their dog. And so a lot of that depends on the breed and the need for their athleticism and their energy output. But again, you are building a better athlete. And unless that has structure and rules and boundaries to the activity, it is not a mental exercise, it is purely physical.
Yeah.
Those
And
are
what I worry about too, that I tell people, if you know you're leaving and you take your dog for a long walk every time before you leave, what happens when there's an emergency and you have to just put them up and leave? They're
right,
not okay with it because they didn't get that walk. You created this routine that in order for them to be okay, they're expecting this walk before you put them in a crate and leave.
right.
And now there's an emergency and you've tossed them in a crate and left and they're confused about why did this just happen?
Yeah. Yeah. And that sort of goes back to the, we need to do things about putting them in the crate even while we're home, even when there
Yeah.
is no reason or no timing that we're leaving. It's just
Mhm.
2:02 in the afternoon and I'm putting you in your crate for half an hour.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. What about things like giving them a frozen Kong or something to chew on as we put them in and depart?
I have no problems with it. Again, I think it's a Band-Aid. It's not fixing the solution.
Yeah.
That Kong's gonna last for 5 minutes and then your dog's gonna be upset for the next 45.
Yeah. So I don't have a problem with it either. I tend to say let's freeze a Kong, right?
Yes.
That's going to take longer.
Yep.
And at the bottom of that Kong is usually another dose of CBD or rescue remedy or whatever
Yeah.
oil concoction I have put together. Right. So that they get another dose sometime later.
Yeah.
And that can be beneficial. But yeah, it's not for a dog that jumps out of 2-story windows, that's not going to fix anything.
They don't care. I mean, some of the worst cases of separation anxiety, honestly, I've seen people offer them a frozen Kong or I don't use them here, but a rawhide bully stick, anything. And a dog with true anxiety does not care
Won't
about
touch
it.
it. Yeah,
It'll be there when you come back.
that's right. And and what we see is like big puddles of drool, dogs that are like super they have hyperventilated in that crate, or they've
Mhm.
seen dogs break off teeth. I've seen dogs, like you say, try to Houdini out of crates and they injure themselves, especially on these wire crates, which is sometimes why these tiger crates or airline carrier crates are much better options, because there is less risk of harm to the animal. Um, we can't just shove them in there and go, good luck with your claustrophobia, because that may be part of the issue, right? It's not,
Right.
it's a claustrophobic thing versus, or restriction or restraint, or I don't know what to do in here,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So again, all that goes back to the state of mind.
Yep.
All right, what else? Oh, I'll also, so let's just add to this. So we talked a little bit about setting the tone for the departure. We also have to set the tone for the return home,
Return. Yep.
right? Because if you come in and you're like, oh, and you're adding all this excitement and blah, blah, blah drama, then we're preparing the dog for the wrong state of mind again. So ideally, it's better to come in, put your pocketbook down, go to the bathroom, ignore the dog for a couple minutes, approach that crate calmly, silently, teach the dog that the expectation is your butt needs to be on the ground
Mhm.
or I will unlock this door. And I'm going to say nothing to you once I know I've taught him this new expectation, right? So I'm really working on that state of mind again and getting him out of anticipation mode and into thinking mode about what the exit needs to look like.
Yeah. I'd cut the adrenaline. The adrenaline does not help at all. They don't need to be praised for being good. You don't have to have a party because you're back. It needs to be, that's awesome. Thank you for being calm in your crate. Now
Right.
come out and join us.
Our neutrality is an important piece.
Yeah.
And we tend to be very celebratory, very exciting,
Yep.
very dancy. Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
And that all needs to go.
Yep. I mean, honestly, crate training here, they're in their out of their crates all day long. And there's absolutely no circumstance to it. Like it's you're just going to go in here for 5 minutes because I'm going to go over here and do something, and then you're coming right back out. Or it may be I'm leaving, but you don't know. We're
Right.
just going in our crates all the time, and there's absolutely zero emotion to it. You
Mhm.
there's no expectation. There's no every time I go in, I'm getting a treat. There's no every time I come out, we're having a party. And the dogs, even though I can't fix the separation anxiety while they're here with me, we can still create a new state of mind that the intent is they go home, we talk to the owners, they're on board with continuing this process to then
Right.
address the real root of the anxiety.
Do you see dogs who come to you for board and train show signs of separation anxiety that they may not have shown at home?
Occasionally, but honestly, it's rare
Yeah.
because it's just a very calm, inviting environment here. So a lot of times what happens, and this is unfortunate actually, because the dog gets here and a lot of times they're not displaying the anxiety because the environment here is calm and relaxed and they're taking cues off of the other dogs and watching how calm and relaxed they are in crates. So sometimes it actually is hard to recreate the anxiety. The dogs come here and they have the best time ever. They're not anxious at all. So then we have, another problem when they go back home is, okay, now we have to recreate the anxiety and address it now because what happened at my house worked. It was good. But we still, again, like you talked about, you don't do separation anxiety board and trains. It's hit or miss. I mean, yes, I've definitely had dogs that have come and stayed, and we've been able to address the anxiety usually just by doing fun crate work and being able to go in and out of the crate all the time and learning the place command and just doing a basic obedience, and they go home and everything sticks.
Yeah.
But definitely not always the case.
Right. And so I think your environment and mine when I did board and train was similar, right? It is very structured. We've got essential oils flying in the room and
Yep.
everything is routine and, very structured with calm dogs. That is what
Yeah.
we aim for.
Yeah.
When
That's why
you,
I tell people dogs learn by acclimation, just like kids.
oh,
Monkey
I've
see,
always
monkey
said there
do.
is no better trainer than the pack.
Yep.
No better. I'm not the trainer. The pack will train you to do something pretty amazing.
Absolutely.
But I often get the call of the dog who was boarded at the vet's office for the weekend, or even like a doggy daycare environment, and the dog wigged the freak out overnight, or, and so what happens there is those environments are often chaotic,
Yeah.
right? They're loud, there's a lot of activity. There are very long stretches of time that the dog is crated with no human around, no access to be let outside. My understanding is most, and this may not be true for all, so I'm not putting it all in one bucket, but I know when back in the day, doggy daycares, they would tend to leave about 7 in the evening and come back 7 in the morning. And the same is true for veterinarians. Once the kennel staff left about 7 o'clock, nobody was back until about 7 o'clock the next morning.
Yep.
And so that then, especially if there's a dog stressed out down the way, your dog's now hearing that. So again, no better trainer than the pack's like, you're upset, I'm upset. We all be
Exactly.
upset together. So all those things can contribute to problems, new problems that you didn't even know you had.
Yeah.
This may be a time to consider a pet sitter that keeps the dog at your house. Maybe they're okay overnight, as long as they're home.
Right.
They don't do well in a boarding kind of setting. Board and train's a different part of the game because we do things very different. And yours, like mine, was at my house, right? So we were in and out all the time.
Yep.
Um,
I can only remember 2 dogs that I've ever had to send back home. And that was not so much separation anxiety, but just a generalized anxiety that they were both COVID dogs
okay.
that had never been away from home before. And although like we had formed a bond, the dogs just could not calm down in order to be able to learn. So I sent both of those 2 dogs home and said, okay, we're going to do some private lessons because it's just way too stressful for the dog to learn in with this much anxiety.
Right.
But they didn't have anxiety at home.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of people don't realize that until they've dropped their dog off somewhere, like at the vet or the doggy daycare or overnight, or in your situation. And then I don't think, I'm trying not to sound judgmental, but I guess I am in my old age. I think like if you have like the doggy daycare environment with the overnight boarding and there's nobody there from 7 to 7 and the dog has just stressed himself out crazily overnight,
Yeah.
the go-to of the people in the vet is drug the dog. They're not doing the things that you and I would do to change the state of mind. And that's
Yeah.
a big, big deal.
And it's only going to get worse every time you send that dog back too, because they remember how they felt when they were in that place.
Exactly. So it's stressful. It leads to not eating. It leads to GI distress, diarrhea, vomiting. I've seen dogs bloat in these stressful environments. And it tends to lead to, here's a prescription, versus here's how we change the dog's state of mind.
Yep.
And that the state of mind is everything. So, and
And
again,
they're not gonna pay it. They're not putting in the resources at a facility like that
it's
to
not their
address
job.
state of mind. Yeah.
It's not their job. It's not usually their expertise.
Right.
You know, even if you do have a kennel worker there overnight, that's usually what they are, is a kennel worker, an observer, not a skilled resource. And
Yeah.
yeah, so. Okay, have we covered it all, or is there anything else on your list?
Uh, Pre-training homework, oils. I use the same oils. Cedarwood is always a big one. And
I would
I also have some things like frequency mats under my crates if needed.
yeah, the Vibes Up to put under a crate mat is a great
Yep.
option. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Vibes Up?
Yep,
Yeah,
a vibes up mat. And oils not just on the dog, oils in the crate,
right.
diffusing in the room, calming music. Calming music really helps
That
as
is a
well.
very good one.
Yeah.
Um, I tend to play classical music. Somebody the other day, I'm trying to remember, I think they were saying reggae music. I have to go look it up and see if I can find it.
Huh.
Something about a different style of music that was working. I'll have to look at it because I was shocked that it was that type of music. I'm like, I would have never
Yeah.
with
I
that.
bet it's something to do with like the rhythm of it
Uh-huh.
is soothing. I I actually had this one dog and I never thought about this before I trained this dog. But when he came to me, they said he really likes to listen to Disney music. Like we play the Disney Channel for him. I was like, well, that's interesting. And then a thunderstorm came along soon after that, and I thought, let's try it. So I turned on some Disney movies really loud in the house, and it really did whatever it was. Maybe it's just the upbeat, fun, friendly voices, but the dogs responded well to it, having just the kid, I call it kids bop.
But in some regards, that is potentially the dog has associated a state of mind with that noise, with that
Yeah.
sound, right? And
Yep.
so, in many respects, it doesn't matter what the music is as long as your dog has a positive association with it.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people when we are choosing essential oils, don't slap them on the dog in the throes of a stressful environment. Bring them out, introduce them when the dog is calm, on those times when you do have him on the couch, nice and relaxed, right?
Yep.
So that now that scent is associated with a state of mind. And then
Yeah.
when I bring that back out or have it in the diffuser or whatever, and they're like, oh, state of mind. And they can usually return themselves to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like moving the car keys. If every time you pick up the car keys, you're leaving and the dog knows it, same association with the oils. Oh, every time the oils come out, you're leaving. Now it's not going to have the effect that we need it to have.
Right, exactly. And so a diffuser in the room with the dog is super helpful. I like them on intermittent, right? So it'll run for about 30 minutes and shut off and come back on for about 30 minutes. I use a lot of cedar wood, and I'll put that on the dog's bedding. Sometimes they don't get bedding, depending on how destructive they are. No collars, no bandanas, nothing like that in the
Yep.
crate. But I'll use cedar wood, valerian root, and vetiver. I use a lot of those, and I'll use them together.
Yep.
Very calming, a little bit sedative, without doing this sort of pharmaceutical effect.
Yep.
I use a lot of CBD. So, all right. Anything else you can think of?
Oh, that was a lot.
It was a lot.
And I mean, it's honestly one of those conversations we could go on and on and on about for hours.
Yeah.
It for me, it's a case study type of conversation where I've learned the most over time from the dogs and different dogs needing different things. And okay, well, this worked. Let me try it with the next dog. Nope, that didn't work.
Right.
You know, that's why it's frustrating as a trainer, honestly. And that's why I really hesitate to talk to someone and say, oh yeah, I can help you fix that.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to make that guarantee.
Knock on wood. I have not fixed it ever. It's sometimes it's been a little creative. Some are longer than others. Some are much harder than others because of the human.
Yeah.
Distance from the human is a very real thing because we are emotional. We want the dog on the couch with us, right? We tell ourselves a story that the dog is under stress. Well, yeah, they sure are. That's why you called me. And so sometimes the things we have to do create a different type of stress, but hopefully we are controlling it and not in overwhelm, but we're working through it bit by bit, and sort of coming out on the other side versus, like I said, you can't just throw the dog in the crate and go, oh, I'll see you later, right? That's a whole new level of stress. But the human has to evolve through this as well and change how they see the animal, the scenario, their own behavior, and all that comes with that.
Yeah.
I think sometimes that's the biggest obstacle is the human resistance.
Yep. And just not understanding sometimes too.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Good talk.
Yeah, I will share the guide that I've put together. It's available for download on my website. I'll send you a copy, and if you want to add some additional considerations to what I have there, I'm happy to update it. But yeah, this has been a good talk.
And
And so,
as always, friends, if this makes you think of a question that would be a good topic for us to discuss later, please
yeah,
comment and let us know.
and we would love to have people join us. We got Angela and I record this throughout the week, and then we just release them on Friday. So we can set up a time with some of you to be part of the discussion and have some interactive dialogue that way. So we're open to all of those things. I forgot what I was going to say. Must not have been important. Might not even have been about this topic.
It was right after you said you'd post the protocol. It had something to do with the protocol, maybe?
I don't know. But yeah, we would love to have questions, things that are important to all of you for us to talk about. Have you join us to have that discussion and ask some of your questions that way. And we're flexible to when we record some of those and then get them edited for release. So that's easy to do.
I think that's when our discussions are the best too, is when we're just kind of off the cuff. A subject comes up and we get going.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what I was going to say was if you have an animal with separation anxiety and you need help, reach out. We will help you. We have options to do that. For me, like I think I said this earlier in the call, is I'm going to give you homework to do first. Things that I know are, easy to document, easy for me to tell you how, and it's going to be like teaching place, starting the crate training and all that, because I need the human to start to see the process. Because if you're not even going to do those things, right? If you're going to get a 2 or 3 days in and go, I'm out because this is hard, because this is taking a lot of effort, because I don't have 30 minutes a night to do it. then I don't want you to waste your money on a program with me that's going to be even more challenging if you're not going to do the basics.
Yeah.
So I've been assigning people homework first to kind of see where they're going and get some of the basics out of the way, and then we can work on the harder stuff together.
Yep.
All right. Well, this was a good one, and we'll see you guys in the future. So Angela Keith, 456 Canine Coach, and her email is 456caninecoach@gmail.com. One day she's going to have a website.
We're getting there.
In the meanwhile, you can visit my website. So I have two that this topic applies to. So caninecoach.dog.dog is where you'll get a lot of my behavioral content. And then Well-Oiled Canine is where you'll see a lot of specifics about dealing with anxiety and things like the CBD or the essential oils we were talking about. Okay. But yeah, Angela and I both bring all this stuff together to help you guys resolve this. Thank you for joining us on the Well-Oiled Canine podcast. I'm Dana Brigman, your canine nutritionist and certified holistic pet health coach. I hope you found today's episode valuable and inspiring for your journey towards better health for your dog. Don't forget to visit me at thewelloiledcanine.com and check out our members forum for lots of discussions, interactions, education that you won't find anywhere else. That's at members.welloiledcanine.com. So join the community. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback helps me reach more pet parents just like you. So until next time, keep your pup well-oiled, well-fed, and well-loved.